added paperwork, different compliance measures, because it's constantly evolving.
How do you lead your team through regulatory shifts or uncertainty in that regard?
So we're trusted with providing exemplary care, all while remaining compliant and audit ready. And honestly, that can weigh very heavily. Technology and field workers specifically has given the team efficiency.
To build an agency for growth and resilience, we need to have the right operational foundation, right?
We can't neglect to remember that, yes, this is an industry, but it is an industry made of people and their best interests.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, everybody who's joining this webinar. Welcome to the webinar. I guess good morning, depending upon which part of the country you are joining from. And thank you for joining this talk that we are having about building a resilient and thriving agency. I am Rohit Mathur. I'm a co-founder of fieldworker.ai. We're a technology platform used by human services agencies, and I'm very, very excited to welcome our guest speaker, Danielle Weiss. Danielle's commitment to serving others began at a very young age when she volunteered in Jamaica at St. John Bosco's Home for Boys and a medical center supporting individuals with developmental and mental health needs. That experience shaped what has now become more than 20 years of dedicated work in the human services field. So again, we're very excited to welcome Danielle. She began her career as a speech teacher in early intervention, supporting young children and families. She later transitioned into organizing and leading recreational programs for adults with developmental disabilities, including Easter Seals, where she earned ACA camp accreditation for the program. Throughout her career, Danielle has consistently built programs that prioritize quality, structure, and meaningful outcomes for individuals and families. Today, she's a leader in our field, a founder and managing member of Skylands Family Support Services, which is the largest care and support coordination organization in New Jersey. She brings not only operational expertise, but deep understanding of the people and communities that they serve. So Danielle has been instrumental, a founder, a leader, a growth engine for her agency, leading it to where they are today. So Danielle, we are very, very grateful to have you here with us, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rohit. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity and the warm welcome.
Thank you. So we'll get started. People are continuing to join, which is great. But we'll get started. We are like a few minutes into the program. Before we dive in, Danielle, into more detailed questions about your organization and your agency, can you briefly share your journey and how you've seen the industry evolve over the last few years?
So sure, absolutely. Alex and I created Skylands in 2012, and our team has grown from the two of us to over 50 in those 14 years, serving our very first individual in Burlington County to now 1,617 individuals across 16 counties. And having the opportunity to positively impact the lives of so many is amazing, as well as a responsibility that needs to be handled with the utmost consideration. And Rohit, certainly in that time in the field, the expectations around the scope of the work has definitely changed, right? And one might say, and maybe some of our listeners might say, there's a continuous flow of new responsibilities, oversight, and the demands being placed upon human service providers.
Yes,
At times it feels daunting, the amount of paperwork, honestly pulling you away from what I know specifically for me led me to the field. And that's the people that we serve. However, a positive change was the shift for fee for service, which truly has allowed the individuals and families choices and options, and creating a way for individuals to build a life that they've envisioned, one that's meaningful and engaging, crafted solely for their interests in mind. And it has been wonderful to be a part of that journey. All the paperwork, all the changes, set aside, being able to truly be a part of individuals' lives in such an impactful way is absolutely amazing.
That's fantastic. That is great to hear. And a couple of things, right? So speaking for Danielle, Skylands Family Support Services, for those who are outside of New Jersey and may not be familiar, is a support coordination organization focused on working with intellectually and developmentally disabled adults and coordinating their care between the Division of Developmental Disabilities, the providers, working with the families, the individuals. So they are essentially the hub holding all the pieces together while taking care of the most vulnerable of our population, the intellectual and developmentally disabled. And as Danielle mentioned, she has had an amazing journey, and that is what we are here to talk about. Just another thing from a housekeeping perspective, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and you can direct them to the panelists, or you can direct them to me, whatever the case might be. But please put them in the chat, and we are happy to take them as we go along through the webinar, provided we have time to do them, and as well as hopefully we'll have a few minutes towards the end of it as well, where we can open it up for Q&A. But we may or may not. So please feel free to ask questions as we discuss. Daniel, sorry for that digression a little bit in another area, but basically, if I may ask, right, in this journey, and these days, this is all a lot in the news. What are that human services areas? So many things going on. What are some of the biggest challenges that you or other agencies that you see are facing right now?
So again, I'm going to assume the majority of our listeners are all either employed by or leading human services entities. So we're trusted with providing exemplary care, right, to the individuals and the families that we support. And as leaders and as individuals within the human services field, we are faced with a number of significant challenges. Right now, today, I would assume anyone in this audience may be dealing with tackling workforce shortages, staff burnout, high turnover rates, the pressure of increased oversight and scrutiny, all while remaining compliant and audit ready. And honestly, that can weigh very heavily on not only leadership, but your staff and your team.
Right. Yeah. So many different things that are going on. Regulatory compliance and this is another area that is always a big concern. That how do you lead your team through regulatory shifts or uncertainty in that regard, Danielle?
Absolutely. So just leading through uncertainty of any type, right? Having clear strategies, policies, and metrics matched with supportive technology like Fieldworker can lighten that load felt by the team and the leadership. Having awareness, patience, and caution are key when navigating uncertainty. Remaining on top of these Medicaid changes that you mentioned, Rohit, and funding reductions and budget cuts and uncertainties, staying on top of all of that is invaluable. Also knowing to use your voice when you can to share the needs of the individuals that you're supporting and the necessity of their services. We should be doing that as much as we possibly can.
Right.
But there are times as leaders, right? Like we want to make fast decisions. We see what's coming on the horizon and we want to beat it. But sometimes acting too quickly can be the wrong decision. So we always want to balance that, navigating uncertainty with grace and pause and caution to ensure that we don't jump too soon.
Yes, that is all very, very, very valid points. Getting a little specific in that, Daniel, from your perspective and your experience and working with other agencies, what are the key leadership traits that matter most in today's environment? I don't want to put you on the spot, but it would be good because some of the audience, right? We are here to talk about resiliency and how to and I believe most of the audience is as you said are in the human services area. Everybody wants to listen to what you have to say. We want to build resilient agencies. We want to be, growing and thriving, keeping the individuals that we are supporting and their families happy and keeping good staff as well. So those are traits that we would like to develop. All the audience members would like to develop. So we'd love to hear some of those traits from you. What do you
Okay.
think?
So absolutely, we will do that. I do want to come back and kind of talk about too how we've had to shift as leaders in this arena to navigate these uncertain times. But I did have a good time kind of trying to come up with a list. And I was very intentional in doing it in alphabetical order to ensure that no one assumed that any one of these traits could be considered more valuable than another. So and I'll keep it as short as I can there, Rohit. So
Sure. No. Go
having
ahead. Yeah.
adaptability, charisma, clarity, diligence, fortitude, grace, integrity, resilience, and trustworthiness.
Right. I think in all seriousness, these are things that are these are traits that are profound, and I'm glad and I thank you for taking the time to really think through this because some of these things, trustworthiness, integrity, that is what we have found as well in all the clients that we work with as well, that agencies which really truly work with the families trust them, the organizations that you are working with other organizations to provide the right care. If they trust you, hiccups happen, problems happen, but if you really develop these, then you can always overcome those because people are understanding of mistakes, of gaps, and areas where things may fall through because they know that your intentions are right and you're working towards the right things with the right processes in place. So thank you for that. These are really truly very now segueing into another area. All these traits are good to have. We have the right intentions. We want to serve the people that we are, tasked to serving and provide them the services. But to build an agency for growth and resilience, we need to have the right operational foundation, right? So from your perspective, right, what operational elements are critical for your agency's stability, for growth? What operationally, how do you set up your agency to be successful?
So I want to piggyback a comment that you had made about the traits that were identified and remind all of us in the room that human services is people business. We are in the business of people
Yeah.
and relationships, and those relationships require every one of those traits from leadership all the way down. And we can't neglect to remember that, yes, this is an industry, but it is an industry made of people and their best interests. So I apologize, Rohit. I wanted to add that in there because you had made such a great point.
Right. No.
But
That is very, very, very valid. Yeah.
and I'm going to talk a little bit about the shift in leadership as I talk about operational elements also. So, agency leaders have had to shift in response to all of our added expectations, the compliance requirements, and the needs of the individuals we support. But we have to do that while maintaining the health and stability of our workforce. The ability to pivot as a leader, for us to remain adaptable, willing and able to step up into the type of leadership that our agency requires, um, ties right back into that resilience. We need to be resilient. We need to be adaptable. And resilient, by definition, is having the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. We have all in this room, I am sure, experienced many different challenges supporting the individuals that we are entrusted to support, as well as navigating the relationships with our staff. So it's important that we're learning what has not worked in order to build what will, and putting the right staff in the right positions and trusting them as they've trust us will allow us to grow. Yeah. So Rohit, you were specifically asking about like operational elements to create sustainability and stability. Right. For us, having specific, clear policies and procedures, having standards of practice or best practices with detailed expectations that then match with technology to maximize efficiency and accuracy are the operational elements for us that have led to our stability.
That is, and this leads to another thing, Danielle. Thank you for that detailed answer. That you also want to, maintain consistency across staff and clients. So I guess that is from the policies and procedures manual. Do you have, scheduled meetings? Like, how do you maintain that consistency across all the staff and clients so that expectations are, well defined and there's no surprises?
Yeah. So again, clear, actionable expectations with the proper tools and technology like fieldworker make it so that you have cohesiveness across the agency. Building standardization, having defined expectations with those best practices acting as your roadmap.
Right.
In terms of meetings, you mentioned specifically like the importance of meetings. So for us, there's weekly meetings between staff and supervisors, which ensure that as an agency, we know about the individuals that we're serving. But also it's an opportunity for us to have conversations with the team about workflow, bottlenecks, and it gives us an opportunity to have consistent messaging through those conversations, and if necessary, reminder of expectations, which also, solidifies that consistency across the agency.
That's great. And I think, Danielle, there's another thing that I know that you have, which you haven't mentioned, is approachability, right? Your staff, I know that when they need you, they can reach you. If they have a situation, you are approachable, available, and ready to help. And I think organizationally, you have implemented that in Skylands, which makes the employees also, ready to go that extra mile always.
Absolutely. I think it speaks volumes to the team to know that the first few years it was Alex and I doing exactly what they do now. They know when push comes to shove, whether it be their supervisor, our directors, Alex or I, we are going to go right alongside them and navigate each of these hurdles. Because to your point, whether it be a hurdle with a family or hurdle with the paperwork, you're always being pulled in different directions, and trying to ensure that everything that you're doing always remains compliant also is a lot to navigate in those moments.
Yes, absolutely. And to that, right, to establish that consistency, are there any metrics or dashboards that you rely on? Like, what metrics are you measuring? What are you looking at, Danielle?
So for us, we really truly like to listen to the voices that speak to us. And when I say that, that's our team and what they need and the families that we're supporting. They
Right.
can truly drive your metrics along with, what's required for auditing purposes, but productivity, timeliness, satisfaction, the use of internal scorecards, and capacity versus availability, those are routinely evaluated. But the use of surveys for anyone in the room, we have annual surveys. You survey your um, your staff, we do, and we survey the families that we're supporting. And we take their feedback very, very seriously to identify areas for growth, identify areas that may be considered a weakness that can then be learning and strengths. But so that's what I really mean when I say to kind of listen to the voices and have them drive some of your metrics.
Right. 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 And 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 Danielle, so you talked a lot about the staff, right? And quality of service and consistency of service. And we know in today's day and age, again, with the various pressures and pulls that our organization faces, the caseloads that are increasing, budgets that are getting cut, how do you prevent burnout and support your team, right? That is a big problem that the industry as a whole is facing, the social care space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So specifically to burnout and exhaustion, right? Um, Being connected, accessible, and speaking to your team allows you to keep your finger on the pulse, to like truly know what's going on in your workforce. Providing collaborative work environments with regular meetings that facilitate discussions again about workflow and being able to then read your team's discomfort or comfort levels and then asking them, what do you need to be more successful? Where are you feeling your biggest hurdles, your biggest disconnect? What can we do to support you in those areas?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that is in some of those areas, technology also helps, like systems reduce some of the administrative burdens. And not to plug ourselves, but our product like Fieldworker comes into play for that. I guess I can ask you, how has technology tools like Fieldworker helped you as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So technology and field workers specifically has given the team efficiency. So they are able to get their work done um, with time being maximized so they can spend their remainder time with the families doing what they should be out in the programs, out in living rooms, meeting the needs of the families, and know with confidence that their paperwork is organized, is audit ready, is timely, and is not something that they feel is bogging them down and draining them.
That's great. That is very helpful. And again, standardization, all this plays into the same thing. We're bringing the same process to everybody, consistency. And once you have consistency, you have measures that you can, metrics that you can look at to measure and improve those areas that are perhaps lagging. I mean, the world we live in, right? It's an example with the compliance and regulatory pressures. It's like we were talking about this earlier, Danielle, is like you're flying a plane, but you are also being asked to fix it at the same time, right? And those fixes are coming from organizations that out of left field, as they say. You fix the plane, you fly the plane, you fuel the plane, everything going on, and that's not easy. And it's very, very important to reduce the burdens that are placed on the employees, on the organization as a whole. So this is operational efficiency is just one part of this that helps you. And from a growth, moving on to some of the areas of growth and long-term sustainability, Danielle, you have had a remarkable journey. You've said that in such a relatively not that long a time, you have grown from just you and Alex.
Mhm.
And for the audience, Alex Humanik is Danielle's business partner in, and they started the agency together. And they are the co-CEOs, managing directors of the agency. You have gone from just you and Alex to supporting over 50 employees, and over, I think you mentioned 1,600 clients that you are
Yeah,
supporting right now in New Jersey in the
yeah.
intellectual and developmental disabled field. What allowed your agency to grow so sustainably, so well in such a short period of time? I'm sure we all, the audience, and I would love to hear that.
So careful, calculated decisions with quality always being of more importance than quantity. And that's the short answer. I have a very more thought out response, but truly the what has allowed us to grow from the very first individual to 1600 is that there was nothing more important to Alex and I in Skylands than the experience that a family and an individual has when being supported by a Skylands coordinator.
Yes.
And yes, there are metrics and there are cohesive, standardized tools that we are using, but truly that growth has been calculated and planned with quality as the driver. And it's not sustainable if people are unhappy or dissatisfied, because everyone in this room knows that our individuals and our families have choices. And if they aren't happy and you aren't providing your staff with the tools that they need to do their job well, these families will go. And therefore, if you're focused on numbers, your numbers are going to decrease anyway.
Right, right, right. That's an excellent answer. Quality over quantity, and that is very, very important and intentional, right? Being intentional about
Absolutely.
it. And in your case, right, that focus on quality and sustainability and operational processes and building those pillars so that you have the right tools in place for the employees and for the organization, the quantity has followed automatically, and then that is an amazing thing to it's conceptually people know this, but really to hear from you is putting it on the ground, right, in ground reality. And there is somebody who's made a comment or a question, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well, Danielle. Somebody has said, one of the audience members, that it is important to have an ongoing discussion with staff about what they do for self care to ensure that
Absolutely.
they understand the importance of having a meaningful life outside of work. So, if you could give your thoughts on that, that would be great as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, honestly, giving your team the strength, the confidence, the permission to focus on creating a good, healthy life balance, work life balance is key. This is working in the human services field can be all encompassing. So many of us are remote. We wake up, we pop on our computers at 5 a.m., we close them at 10 p.m., and we can allow this to absorb ourselves completely. So for that person who made that comment about self-care and being willing to encourage your team to focus on what they need, if they are it's like pouring from a half empty cup, right? So if you're pulling from your team constantly and they have no time to refill their cups, your families are going to feel that. The quality of the service, your reports, your timeliness, all of that is going to fall by the wayside. So for us, um, having managers, directors, and leadership that will jump in and support their team at any given moment, who strive to ensure that the team is heard, is validated, is respected, is appreciated. And that's hard in human services, right? Like we are faced with, these hurdles of workforce shortages and burnout, because we are going through every positive and every negative with all of our families. But we've got to give our teams living wages. We've got to give our team access to affordable health care, to a retirement plan. And if you treat your teams with respect and create relationships with them, you won't have turnover problems necessarily. Uh, I am very excited to say that we do not have that as a problem. I know it is a problem in the industry. It is not a Skylands problem, because our team and the families we support always comes first.
That is great. That is very, very good to hear, and a very, very good lesson as well. That even in the toughest of times, if your team is feeling supported, if the families that you are supporting feel that they belong and that you are looking out for their best interests always, then you will not face some of the problems that the industry as a whole is facing. And that is an amazing, amazing thing to see in action with your organization. That is and I guess this was a question, but I think you've answered it as well. That this approach to putting people first, putting quality first. It's something that organizations struggle with. How do you scale without losing quality, right? That is, you've managed to do that, and I guess you already said that it's focused on people, but if there's anything else that you want to add to that, we'd love to hear that. How were you able to scale and you managed to maintain the quality of service that you had?
Honestly, it's really about knowing and respecting the bandwidth of your current workforce. Having a detail focused hiring strategy that'll lead to successful new hires, and truly putting the quality first. I know it sounds like such a simple answer, like how did you do it, right? How? Well, the quality of the service that the team is delivering then speaks for itself. And the families talk to one another, and it doesn't take long for momentum to build when the experience and the trust that people are putting into your team just speaks volumes. So Rohit, I wish I had this monumental, large scale. It takes this. But honestly, it does take attention to all of your quality measures. It takes absolute attention to providing your team with the tools that they need to feel empowered, to feel educated, to feel confident in doing their job day in and day out, and knowing that they are employed in a supportive environment that encourages them to ask questions and doesn't penalize them for saying, I don't know, or I made a mistake, because everybody makes mistakes, right?
Yes.
It's part of a lifetime journey. And having an agency where that is understood and transparency is encouraged and respected fosters growth.
Right. And so agency leaders or agency members who are here, uh, what advice would you give them who are planning for the next year or two or three? What would your advice be?
My advice is to invest in strong technology like Fieldworker and invest in your team. Invest in technology that makes your workforce best able to meet the demands of the job. And Fieldworker, Rohit, your team is amazing. And it has genuinely allowed the staff to really efficiently get through paperwork that used to feel very cumbersome to them. So again, you invest in your team and your team's tools. And if you aren't sure of the answer, you surround yourself with people who will get it for you.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. We appreciate that, Danielle. And of course, you have been an amazing partner to our product as well. So thank you for being that partner. So appreciate that very much. But here those tools are also so you put in the tools, right? Tools in place. You put in the technology tools. You also put in the organizational tools in, the right people in the management hierarchy, so
Yeah.
that again all those chains of communications are always open. And the tools are just that, right? At the end of the day, tools are there to help you do your job, but it's the human element that you keep talking about, which is the most important element, whether it is talking to the staff or whether it is talking to the families, that pulls it all together. And that is amazing. And if you were starting today, Danielle, what would you do anything differently? This is another way of asking, hey, tell us about something that you did wrong, or
This
whatever.
is a trick question,
It is
and
a
I'm
trick
going to
question.
answer it with a trick answer. And I am going to tell you I would change nothing. And I would change nothing because if we changed something, we wouldn't be who we are and where we are today. And sure, you learn a lot, right?
Right,
There, again, we between um, added paperwork, different compliance measures, showing up to play football and find out you're really supposed to be at a soccer game, because it's constantly evolving. The expectations and the demands being placed on anyone, whether you're a residential provider, a day hub provider, your requirements and your compliance, those are constantly changing,
right.
right? um, but it is the people and an investment to your people. And I wouldn't change any of it because, again, who we are and what we've done has worked. And we've just continued to understand that a mistake is not a mistake unless you don't learn and grow from it.
Right, right. No, very well said. Very well said. Thank you so much. And the other thing is, right, all these processes and systems that you have put in, right? Another key measure that is there is that it helps you detect issues early, right? Problems early, whether it is with families, whether it is
Yeah.
with staff, because you have the open communication, because you have the tools, because you are monitoring on a schedule, a process which is well laid out. You detect problems early, you can address them early, you have the staff who is supportive to jump in. And you haven't mentioned it, but just for the audience knowledge, Skylands deals with many complex cases. They're very specialized in that, and they spend a lot of time with complex cases. And this type of operational setup really helps them allocate resources. And Daniel, I don't want to speak for you, but as you had mentioned before, helps you allocate resources adequately and make sure that the right again issues get detected earlier and resolved earlier as well, right?
Absolutely. But that, to your point, the reason why they are detected early is because we are in constant regular communication with our team on the ground.
Right.
We know if there is an uptick in a particular individual. We know if a team member seems slightly off. Like, we are that internally connected to ensure that the controllables, the things we can know, are known, so we can navigate them as best as we possibly are able. We do have routine meetings with supervisors, routine management meetings. We are reading every monthly report. We are cursory reviewing again annual reports. We are building our own best practices out of best practices, and truly try to build, like I said, the roadmap. Give your team the tools to do their job layer by layer, so that when they need them, or when something feels like a one off, they know where to get their answers from. Also, knowing that they can call their immediate supervisor, their director, Alex and I. There are layers built in so that you should never have an employee who feels like they're treading water at sea by themselves.
Right, right. That's a very, very good analogy there. And Daniel, it seems like we only started talking like 2 minutes ago, but really 40 minutes have gone by, and we are reaching the end of time. I wish I had a lot more time to talk to you. I have a lot more questions, but we might have to do this again. I apologize for that ring. But I'm going to have a set of few questions that I do want to ask you, which perhaps the audience will appreciate before we say goodbye to you today. That if you were to give a leadership lessons that to every agency owner or director or manager, what should they remember from your point of view?
I think keeping it simple. So be strong and be adaptable.
Right.
Be willing to make the changes your agency needs to be successful, even when they're uncomfortable. Be brave and graceful.
Right. That is very, very, very good. So calm and graceful in the eye of the storm sometimes, right? You
That
always
is
have
It's
like
but
a
to your point, Rohit, it's easy to get caught up. There
right.
are how many times anyone in this room have you felt like you're building the bridge and standing on it?
Yes.
Flying the plane and learning how to be a pilot.
Right.
Like there's nothing better than knowing that you don't like, oh my gosh, I don't know, but being willing to take the leap to figure it all out and being brave enough to ask the questions you need to get the answers you have to have.
Sure. That is, and similarly, that's great. An operational habit that has made the biggest difference for you, Danielle.
Clarity.
Right.
Clarity in terms of your processes, clarity in terms of your vision, clarity in terms of your expectations.
Right. So keep a long term and a short term vision in mind whenever you are working towards anything. And I think everything is moving towards that goal. Yeah,
I think
very
never losing sight of how you started.
right.
Also, remember your founding principles. Remember why becoming a face in this room was important to you as a founder, as a
Right.
CEO, as a managing member. Why did you step into this arena? And never losing sight of what your hope was in being able to give to the people that you're servicing as you grow and as you're navigating those eyes of the storm.
Yes. That is a piece of advice for navigating in 2026 and beyond. We are seeing, I'm going to be very literal. We are seeing budget cuts. We are seeing
Yeah.
all these things happening. But
Yeah.
of course, your view is much wider and bigger. So a piece of advice for navigating the next year or two.
So, you threw me off when you wanted to add in budget cuts on that one.
No,
So, you
ignore
want to
that.
go,
Ignore
oh
that.
no,
That's what
nothing,
I'm hearing.
nothing changes until it changes, right? Like
Right.
always knowing what's in the horizon, like I said, but nothing changes until it changes. Being prepared, be aware, be alert, but be patient, right? Again, don't jump too soon. And nothing is going to be more important than investing in your team because there is no need for a leader without a team.
Yes, that's a very, very good point to close on. And I think sometimes, as you had mentioned before as well, that in this area, sometimes you have to be patient. Sometimes the a quick decision is possibly not the right decision, right? To have the patience and analyze everything before you make a decision.
Absolutely.
Right. That is very good. And actually, the time is also very good. We have reached the top of the hour. What I'm going to do is thank you so much, Danielle. And thank you, everybody who joined. We have a lot of people who joined. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my email address in the chat here to everyone. And if there are any questions that you might have for us, if you would like to connect, if there's something you would like to ask Danielle, you can please send it to me, and I'm happy to be the channel. I have put my email address here for everybody to connect to, and I wish I had more time, Danielle, to talk to you. But thank you everybody for joining, and thank you so much, Danielle, for taking the time. I truly very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Rohit. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.